Season 2, Episode 3, Lesson 0. Twilight is once again main character of this episode, and it starts with her making sure she has everything on her checklist. I'm Count Lurchlot, and this is Lukewarm Television. After the opening credits, we learn that Spike and Twilight are ahead of schedule, with the next thing on their schedule being cupcakes. Before we continue, I feel I should express that I believe this episode is one of the biggest indicators of Twilight being autistic, and you'll see what I mean as the episode progresses. The first example comes in how Twilight thinks about these cupcakes. She only ordered 12, but being generous because they had an extra one, Mrs. Cake decided to give her another, but Twilight doesn't want all of them, because the extra cupcake is getting all over the one next to it, and Twilight doesn't want one pony to think another pony is getting more icing than them. Yep, that is a very keen eye on detail and very obsessive over a little fact. Twilight follows this up by making sure that each cupcake has an equal amount of icing on it. Eventually, Twilight's obsession means there's almost no icing on any of the cupcakes. I get they're even now, but honestly, I wouldn't mind if someone gets a little more icing than I do, and this is coming from someone who's not only autistic, but also OCD. They get back to the library, and Spike feels that they've finished everything on the checklist, only to discover that Twilight wants to triple-check the checklist after they've double-checked it to make sure they haven't missed anything. Yeah, I can relate to that. It's from here Spike expresses that he's glad that they don't have a lesson to write for Princess Celestia, because he doesn't think he could write another word. However, then Twilight realizes that they haven't sent Princess Celestia a friendship lesson that week. Twilight finds this bad because she's supposed to send a letter to Princess Celestia every week to tell her a lesson she's learnt about friendship. Upon getting Twilight's calendar, they find out they sent the last friendship lesson the Tuesday before, and today is Tuesday. This causes Twilight to panic, because she knows that if she doesn't send Princess Celestia a lesson by the end of the day, she'll be tardy, which is something she doesn't want to be. Also, from this scene, I'm guessing Spike can also break the fourth wall. Spike doesn't understand what the big deal is because he doesn't think Princess Celestia will mind if Twilight misses one friendship letter, but Twilight isn't willing to take that chance. This is another very good indication of Twilight's autism in my opinion, because I remember when I was in uni, I absolutely hated handing in assignments even a day late. So that's why I strongly state that Twilight is autistic, because I really relate to her in this episode. This causes Twilight to panic, and she starts coming up with rather silly scenarios. And again, I think Spike also has the ability to break the fourth wall. Spike thinks Twilight is being ridiculous, and considering he's a child, I think that's very wise of him, because he's clearly being more sane than Twilight is right now. However, Twilight does agree that she's got nothing to worry about, because she is now more determined than ever to find and solve a friendship problem. This takes us on a very funny, obsessive, and rather cringy journey. Let's go. At first, she thinks Rarity needs help because she can hear screaming coming from her boutique, which gives Twilight hope that she's found the problem she needs to solve. We find out that Rarity's problem is that she's missing her jewel-encrusted purple ribbon. She also needs it to complete her latest creation. Twilight says she'll do her best to find it, but before she can even finish her sentence, Rarity actually manages to find it. Well, sorry Twilight, that might have been a waste of time. Knowing that her other friends could need help, Twilight heads to Sweet Apple Acres next, where she finds Rainbow Dash trashing one of Applejack's barns. Thinking they've had a falling out, Twilight forces Rainbow Dash to stop and decides to play psychologist with them to find the root of their friendship problem. Twilight asks Rainbow Dash to tell her about all the issues Rainbow Dash is having with Applejack. Turns out she's not having any. The reason Rainbow Dash is destroying the barn is because Applejack asked her to, because she wants to put up a new barn there. Yeah, you might want to ask these questions before making assumptions, Twilight. With time running out, Twilight decides to go see Fluttershy next, because she's always got some fear she's trying to get over. However, this is proven wrong, as Fluttershy appears to be in a full-blown wrestling match with a bear. Twilight is shocked because she thinks Fluttershy has finally decided to stop being such a scaredy pony, and leaves knowing that there's nothing here to resolve, but as it turns out, Fluttershy wasn't wrestling with the bear, she's actually their chiropractor. As time passes on, Twilight gets more and more worried that she's going to disappoint Princess Celestia. She gets so worried that she starts having a split personality, one being logical and the other being crazy. Spike manages to snap her out of it when he sees her talking to herself, but then she starts imagining a group of fillies pointing and laughing at her. Thankfully, he is able to snap her out of that. And again, where did Spike get all these fourth wall of breaking abilities? I thought that was Pinky's shtick. Spike thinks Twilight is overstressing and tells her to just go to the picnic and relax. Twilight then turns up to the picnic and she appears to be losing it. She's reminding me of myself during exam block at uni. They ask Twilight if she's okay, and she says no because she feels she's in the most horrific trouble she's ever been in. They inquire about how they could help. Then Twilight expresses about how she's yet to send her lesson to Princess Celestia, But then all the other characters breathe a sigh of relief because they thought it was something really serious. However, this just sends Twilight more crazy as she doesn't understand how no one is taking her seriously about her fear of being tardy. Now, look, I hated being tardy as much as the next person, but even I think Twilight's going a bit overboard here. The other main characters just giggle at her as they think she's getting worked up over nothing. However, Twilight points out that this isn't nothing, it's everything, and look, even though I think Twilight's going a bit overboard here, I do think they should take a little more time to understand that this is important to her. Unfortunately, even after expressing how serious she thinks the situation is, all the other main characters still believe that she's worrying over nothing, and frustrated, Twilight takes off. With the day almost over, Twilight decides to do what is probably the most stupidest thing she's done in the series so far. She decides that if she can't find a friendship problem, she'll make one, and at this point, she has completely cracked. Look at that face. Ugh. This leads her to going to see the Cutie Mark Crusaders. She appears, and after creeping the Crusaders out with her craziness, she tells them she wants to be a good friend for them by offering them some odd-looking doll called Smarty Pants that was apparently her favorite toy as a filly, but understandably, none of the Crusaders want it. However, when Twilight asks who wants to play with the doll first, they all run away because, yeah, none of them want to play with the doll. Although, to Twilight's credit, she does manage to create a friendship problem because they don't fight over who gets to play with the doll, they fight over who has to as they keep trying to force one another to play with the doll. However, then Twilight evolves into maximum craziness and dumbness by casting what I can only assume is a love spell that makes them love the doll more than anything else in the world. The spell works, and then the Crusaders do start fighting over the doll. Unfortunately, then Twilight isn't able to break it up because none of them want to listen to her. Yep, backfire major there, Twilight. Twilight tries to take it off them by force, but they throw her out. She runs into Big Mac and asks him to get the doll back from them. He agrees to, but then he won't give it back because now he's fallen in love with it. This soon leads to an epidemic, as almost every pony in Ponyville wants the doll. The commotion eventually leads back to the other main characters, but thankfully, they are spared from the influence of the spell, by Twilight advising them not to look at it. She explains that she enchanted the doll and now everyone is fighting over it. They ask why she would do that, and Twilight admits she only did this because she had nothing to report to Princess Celestia, so of course she tried to make a problem. However, thankfully Princess Celestia then appears and casts a counterspell that snaps every pony out of the weird obsession with the doll. Well, all except for Big Mac, who turns out really did want the doll. Good on you, Big Mac. You cherish that doll. Clearly angered by Twilight's antics, Celestia tells Twilight to meet her in the library. Twilight bids goodbye to the other characters, fearing she'll be forced to move back to Canterlot after all this. Back at the library, Twilight confesses her fear of tardiness to Princess Celestia, and how she fears that now she is a bad student. However, then Celestia points out that she believes Twilight is a wonderful student, and she doesn't have to get a letter every week to know that. Then all the other main characters barge in to talk on her behalf. They confess how it is kind of their fault that Twilight went off the rails, because when she confessed her problem to them, none of them felt it was something worth worrying about, and so when she ran off all worked up, none of them tried to stop her. They then beg for Celestia not to take Twilight away just because they were too insensitive to listen to and help her. However, Celestia smiles at them and expresses that she feels they all learnt a valuable lesson today. Yeah, I agree. When your friend's worked up about something, don't just brush them off. Help them. Because of this, Celestia agrees not to punish Twilight, but only on one condition, that from now on, they all have to report their findings to her regarding the magic of friendship. But only when they happen to discover them. They agree, and Twilight is allowed to stay in Ponyville. Before Celestia leaves, Twilight asks her how she knew she was in trouble. Turns out Spike let her know that Twilight was letting her fears get the best of her, and she commends Spike for being the only one who took Twilight's feelings seriously. Just before the episode ends, Spike is asked to take a letter, and because they all learned a lesson about friendship this episode, they all contribute to the letter. They learned that they should take friends' worries seriously, even when they don't have anything to worry about, and that you shouldn't let your worries turn a small problem into a big problem. Spike, however, feels he did not have to learn a lesson, because he is the best and most awesome friend a pony could ask for. In his defense, he was the only one who took Twilight's fears seriously. However, Twilight then gets angry at him, and he agrees to cross that out. What I really appreciated about this episode is that it taught a lesson that I myself can relate to heavily. In my life, I've had a lot of worries that people think aren't worth worrying about, but at the same time, I stress about them greatly to the point that I could blow them completely out of proportion. However, if you have a good friend by your side to help you, you can resolve even the biggest problem. And like I said, I really relate to this episode because if you ask me, this is one of the biggest indicators of Twilight's autism, because she got so obsessed with completing her task, she went a little crazy. And let me tell you, I've experienced that multiple times in my life as well. So yes, I will always hold the headcanon that Twilight is autistic. Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you at the next review.